Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Learn at Lunch. Today, I am thrilled to be joined by our Staff Assembly VP of Wellness, Mark, who is actually going to be talking about a lot of what he does in his day job with the Semel Healthy Campus initiatives. So we will get to that in just a second, but before that, let me just say this is a Staff Assembly Learn at Lunch. Staff Assembly is for staff by staff, and we also have a wonderful Spark campaign going on for staff scholarships. Staff Assembly, in addition to doing these great Learn at Lunches and some other fantastic programs, they do scholarships for staff to help you with whatever educational needs you're wanting to go for. So be sure to sign up for scholarships and also give a couple dollars towards the Spark campaign, and Mark can put that link in the chat. We also have a couple of great Learn at Lunches and other things coming up. So there will be a Learn at Lunch on December 8th with the sustainability folks. That one's going to be great next week. So feel free to sign up for that as well. And then Mark is also leading a gyrokinesis. I don't know how to say that word, but it's going to be a lot of fun of Movement for Fun on December 9th at 11:15. So looking forward to those. Feel free to sign up for those as well. And with that, I will turn it over to Mark.
All right, thank you. So I'm gonna just get my screen up here real quick and start from the beginning. The only place we can get started. All right, here we go. So, like Joy mentioned, my name is Mark Biethingmeyer. I am grateful to be this year's VP of Wellness with Staff Assembly, but I also am a Special Projects Coordinator for the Semel Healthy Campus Initiative Center. This is my full-time day job, and I've been involved since I graduated from UCLA as an undergrad. I started up in the community garden as my first job with them, and the kind of core values that the organization embodied really drew me into falling more and more in love with just the community aspect of well-being and learning how we can kind of work across the campus to build community in this type of way. And so I'll get more into that as we go. I'd like to give a little shout out to my fellow colleagues who helped put some of these slides together with me. It's kind of like an heirloom that we have passed down that evolved. So Dr. Wendy Slusser, Hannah Milan, and Katie Embry really helped bring this to life as well. And so today I'm going to describe a little bit about Semel HCI and our approach to health and well-being, give some of these examples to the work that we do around campus, and offer an invitation to get involved and learning how you can do so with answering questions at the end. And so what is health, right? This is a simple one-word term that has boundless meanings to all different types of things. And so, you have this idea of physical wellness, the things that we eat, our physical activity. But, that would really fall short in kind of describing this complex structure that exists, with ourselves, within each other, within the world around us. And so, the World Health Organization describes health as a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being. It's not basically this lack of disease. It goes beyond that. And furthermore, we have this added complexity of planetary health and how that is intrinsically related to the health of our people. And so physical, once again, is kind of like the eating, the drinking. These are healthy and non-healthy behaviors. So smoking, that is something that affects our health, right? Mental health. A lot of our emotional and mental well-being that we really kind of think of what may separate us from a lot of other animals or species is kind of this ability to have emotion and complex intelligence, but also something that we share very dearly with all these different animals and the planet is this kind of connectedness, companionship, the social dynamic that exists between us all, and then bringing in this planetary health that has become more and more prevalent in today's kind of society. And so a Lancet commission wrote a little bit of research on this. Well, they wrote a lot of research on this, but their definition is the health of human civilization, the state of the natural systems on which it depends. And so in terms of what we are most worried about sometimes with health, when it's not, 2020, is kind of the trends of obesity in the United States. That's kind of a big part of the health movement here in our country, is kind of understanding these trends of obesity and how it's really specific to some of our more developed countries. And so you can see right here these really drastic trends that have shown to be a significant problem over the decades leading up to where we are currently. A significant amount of our population has diabetes, if not pre-diabetes, and they don't even know about it. And so we'll learn a little bit more about that. It has a huge expense to our not obviously our well-being, but our economic productivity. A lot of money goes into the medical expenses to help diminish diabetes, but also the productivity if you're looking from a work standpoint. Another challenge these days is food insecurity, and that's a big effort that HCI has taken on. This is a little bit of statistics that some people don't realize at our campus level, is the amount of food insecurity from students. And what's a little even more shocking is there's not really much data specifically on the staff food insecurity or security. A lot of people think that it may not exist. It's not really being talked about as frequently as some of these other problems, but it's definitely exacerbated by other challenges like what we have today with COVID-19. And so the CDC is kind of our leading body here with the information that we learn about this virus and this pandemic. And it really is challenging to think about all the different layers of how this is affecting our health and well-being as a person, as a society, and as a planet, right? And so think about these different challenges that we have facing our society. What can we do to take action? A lot of our culture is kind of here and now, and I need it quicker. I need it cheaper. And so how can we make this a part of everyone's culture and really have them highlight this as something that they embody and that represents them and inspires them to want to live that healthy, happy life? And so Semel HCI, we've been around for almost 10 years, not quite, but 2012, 2013 is about when this initiative really started. And so the founders and visionaries, the Semels, you may be aware of the Semel Institute. We're not the Semel Institute, but we're definitely connected to them and their founders and visionaries that have worked to create this vision of a healthier campus. And so that side is more about human brain behavior and disease and doing research specific on that. Whereas Semel HCI was kind of more inspired to create something that affected the campus at large. And the students, the staff, the faculty, the community, really making it something that is lived and celebrated each and every day. And so the chancellor worked with the Semels to found the Semel Healthy Campus Initiative. And with that, they looped in our first associate vice provost, Dr. Michael Goldstein. He's a sociologist that studied social movements, because at the core, we wanted to determine how we could create this as a social movement. And so with that, we created a series of pods, which I'll get to in a second. That is basically our working groups that conducts the works that we do. But we also have a steering committee that really drives the ship and kind of offers insight on the strategies and the decision making. We also have different program leaders who kind of help us on an auxiliary level, and then some graduate and undergraduate students and researchers that help support a lot of the work that we do. And so our current associate vice provost is Dr. Wendy Slusser, who really brings a lot of the life to our organization and helps us really think about leveraging our assets on our campus and how the people here are really what create this incredible institution that is UCLA. And thinking about these assets, how can we leverage and highlight these assets to create a collective model of impact and an experience that brings people in? And so sharing this common agenda, we have a set of our own values very similar to the true Bruin values, in trying to embrace and celebrate diversity, looping in as many different stakeholders as we can, making health a shared value. And so with this collective impact model, this was something that was shared on the Stanford Innovation Review almost 10 years ago. And so we published an article that uses Semel HCI as a case study. And we kind of embody a lot of these successful ingredients into this recipe that has proven to make a powerful social movement. And so sharing that common agenda, right? The sharing a value system. The coordinating structure is our pods. That's the working groups that we have, which I'm going to explain today about how you can get involved and really what's it like to join a pod meeting. Engaging in these mutually reinforcing activities so that, this is something that is beneficial for everyone. It's not lopsided in one either way. Participating in continuous communication, it really comes down to that, a clear and effective communication where information is shared between people in a very flowing and embraced system. And then agreeing on measurements. We got to document this. This is a research institution. And so we take this very strategic and calculated approach to how we're doing what we're doing. How can we analyze it and share it with the rest of the university and communities outside of the university. And so we really, on that note, we kind of draw and build on this research and teaching asset of the university, building on these strengths to elevate the work that we do collectively. And the pod model really helps create like a spark. It's like a spark plug. It brings people together, people share ideas, and then sooner than you know it, that just starts evolving to other collective work. And so it helps create this large impact across the university. Innovation, of course, is key here because we want to keep it fun. We want to keep it relevant, and that's how people kind of help evolve this health and well-being culture moving forward. And so one thing I wanted to share here is a model that is shared widely in the public health world, which is a socio-ecological model. And the purpose here is kind of thinking about the different points of intervention that we can act to make slight changes in the behavior or attitudes of our people or society. And so at a smaller level, we have the student, staff, and faculty. And that is more specific to the things that are very shared between our personal experience, these values, attitudes, our skills, our identities. But then thinking about our social environments, how are these bigger pockets of people put together, and what do they do? What are their hobbies? What are their different passions? And so thinking about the next level beyond that is kind of this physical environment that gives texture to a lot of these different things. How can we intervene at this level? So doing something like a workshop at a very personal level, like with the teaching kitchen or garden, which I'll share a little bit later. What is something that we can do maybe at a larger scale with bike lanes, stairwells, and I'll give a little more of those examples later. Clean air, right? And then policy institution is kind of at the crux of the top of this scale, thinking about how we can make it easier for these changes to happen by the different policy. And at UCLA, at an institution, that's kind of one of our bread and butter is kind of making those changes, and it reverberates throughout the UC system. And since we're a leader, it really goes to different areas of the world. And so finally, what's a pod? It's a weird name for something that can seem very so simple, but we have these 7 different thematic working groups that specialize in different areas of health. We started with BEWell with a tobacco-free campus campaign, and it really evolved into understanding that there's just so much more to health than just that. And so we have our EatWell pod, which focuses on nutrition and fresh foods, food literacy. We have our built environment pod, that's our BEWell pod that thinks about the physical space that we reside in. MindWell is our mental and emotional health. ResearchWell kind of is not necessarily a pod where we have people participating in, but it is kind of like a powerhouse that helps us analyze and assess a lot of the projects that we're doing. BEWell, the movement and exercise, and EngageWell, our social health. And so with these different pods, they focus on different areas of intervention, and so academic, experiential, and structural approaches to health. And so I'm not going to go too deep on stuff like the curricula and the research at a student level with academia, because that is a little bit more focused toward the student experience. But we do a lot of programming, communication, and branding, and a lot of operational service projects that help create this healthier campus. And so the pods are led by a co-lead, by two co-leads, sometimes three actually. And so the purpose of that is to have multiple sides of the university covered here. And so with faculty, you get the academic side of the institution, and then operational staff cover that other side of the campus. And so we have a graduate student researcher and a pod blogging assistant that help bring this to life. And so just as a quick kind of overview of some of our activities, I'm going to go into detail, but academics, we've created minors and certificates that help integrate health and wellness in that area of the student and campus experience. Different research, vending, healthy vending is one that I'm going to talk about a little bit later, and how choice architecture and how we design choices that are offered to people can help make healthier decisions, the healthy choice, the easy choice. Experiential, things that people can participate in and make this like a fun thing that people can do. You may have heard of mindful music, or our teaching kitchen that does a lot of great workshops. Not something that we necessarily spearhead. It's the teaching kitchen with UCLA Recreation and CPO are also incredible partners in all that. Structural, as I mentioned, the stairwell campaign I'm going to talk about in a little bit. And then also these state and national collaborations that we have with UC Office of the President, but as well as, for example, Menus of Change, which is a research consortium of different universities that are trying to innovate food and dining options. And so Brew and Plate, you may be aware of, is one of those innovations that kind of was inspired by this collaborative. And so I'm going to go through a handful of our pods, and some are going to go a little bit more in detail than others. But for our MindWell pod, what does it mean to MindWell? And so our leadership here, we have Dr. Nicole Green, who is the executive director of counseling and psychological services. You may have seen her on the UCLA Connections. She's done a lot of amazing work with us at UCLA and abroad, and very grateful to have her perspective covering the staff, the operational side of campus. And to complement that, we have Dr. Bob Builder, who Chief of Medical Psychology. He teaches over at the Semel Institute. Really amazing individual. You can see he's got a big smile and has a real way with words. We have an end of the year celebration, which we'll talk about later, and he's usually the voiceover for that because he just has that kind of natural voice. Then our research assistants, we have Maria Garibay, who helps do a lot of the administrative and analytical backing behind a lot of the pod's work. And so the real heart of this pod is to kind of support projects that affect the psychological health on campus. And so understanding that mind-body connection and how important it is to kind of mentally create this sense of being away when you're actually on campus. And so some of the projects that they've worked on, one of the bigger ones I wanted to share today is our Eudaimonia Awards ceremony. And so this happens every year. It's an event to really spotlight the different members of our community. And so, what is eudaimonia? It's a word that we probably don't hear very often. And what you may have heard, though, is hedonia. And hedonia is this Greek word, I believe, that is derived from pleasure that's immediate and instant gratification. But eudaimonia is this longer sense of fulfillment and meaning and purpose. And so we wanted to really celebrate that as something that people can identify with and kind of expand upon their health literacy think of these words and how can we build community around this? And so these ideas of generosity, selflessness, resilience, we do a call to nominations. And so last year we did our first virtual Eudaimonia celebration due to the pandemic. We typically have a TEDx salon in the basement of Poly at the Poly Clubhouse, and we have food, and it's a great celebration. People share a talk on something related to eudaimonia. And last year we honored Dr. Kelly Lytle Hernandez, and she gave a really great speech on social justice, which was very timely. This was actually we claimed this title and this topic way before a lot of the racial injustices happened, and it was a really great timely talk to have. And so it helped us kind of come together as a community and celebrate some of our different leaders. And so you can still nominate. We do this annually, and the application's just opened. And so I can get a list of links and drop those and share those. I have my speaker notes up, but they vanished, and I had some of them in there, which I was going to share as we went along, but we'll get them to you nonetheless. EatWell, who are our pod leadership here. We have Dr. Amy Rowat, professor of integrative biology and physiology. And then we have assistant vice chancellor of housing and hospitality, Pete Angelos. And so once again, covering these different sides of the university. And they really strive to focus on literacy, food literacy, and kind of helping people understand healthier, sustainable, equitable food choices across campus. And so with that being the focus of their pod mission, I wanted to just share a little bit of that. And so this is digging in a little bit of what food literacy actually means, right? There's this identity and way we can describe our personal experiences with food, but there's also a political side, a deep scientific side, a social side to this. And so with these different domains creates this kind of complete view of what food literacy is. And so we've done different research that promotes food literacy through curriculum with the Geffen Academy and LAUSD, but also now integrating that into a more experiential opportunity to learn about food literacy through the Teaching Kitchen, and with UCLA Recreation doing amazing workshops across campus and have adapted beautifully virtually. I wanted to give a little bit of a sneak peek of what some of the pods are up to and what they've done this quarter so far. And so this is just a little overview of some of the projects that they've been doing. And so when you join a pod meeting, here was one of the events they had where everyone just kind of dumped in some ideas that they wanted to work towards that was beneficial to them, and seeing how this can kind of come to life throughout this remote year. And so one of the more popular ideas was this collaborative cookbook. And so we've kind of helped along with some cookbooks in the past. You may be familiar with the B-Plate cookbook, which was created by Housing Hospitality to showcase a lot of their recipes. And we work with them to kind of create a stream of they basically 100% of the proceeds went to food security efforts on campus. And so we work with them to kind of create a system on how that could easily be done. And so this year we're taking more of a lead on the cookbook concept. And so we're making our own cookbook that is in a partnership with all of our pod members, and then the UCLA Farmers Market, because we want to basically include them as much as we can in this remote year. The Farmers Market obviously isn't meeting on campus anymore because no one's really there. And so we want to highlight local produce that can be bought locally from farmers and can be included in this cookbook. So if you have any recipes, I can drop that link in there in a little bit, and you can contribute your own favorite recipe or traditional, food items to that community cookbook. A little bit of the basic needs side. We've done some research with the CPO, who is the real heart of basic needs on campus, who does absolutely tremendous work. And so I shared a little bit of that statistic in the beginning, where there was some research conducted where about 40% of students experience some degree of food insecurity. And so these numbers are, not only confined to students, the retiree and emeriti community, as well as our staff, also experience that. And so Semel HCI is doing a Spark campaign with the CPO to fundraise monies for their food box programs and their virtual gift card programs, that we can give this to the students, staff, faculty, retirees, and emeriti community. This is just a little bit more information on some of the food literacy sides of the teaching kitchen, and how we try and create these experiential opportunities for them as much as possible. The Jane B. Semel HCI Community Garden, this is kind of where a lot of my experience with staff assembly really all began. Our dear friend Gino, who has been on the board for a number of years now, he reached out, and we thought we could do something that was experiential for the staff. And so although it's closed right now, we are still growing food. I go up there. I'm the only person other than one more facilities management individual who's helping basically harvest and grow the food and diverting it all to those in need in our community. And so when that isn't happening in a normal year, we have this Adopt a Plot program, so that you can get together with your peers and adopt a plot for the academic year or a summer session. And so that's basically September all the way to June for the academic year, and then you have the opportunity to extend to summer, which is real popular for staff because all the students are gone and they get more space into the plot. And so staff assembly has 2 plots in the community garden. And so this is a couple of onions that we harvested and donated from this past year. Another opportunity we had that staff participated in last year was a Victory Garden Certificate Program. And so this was a 3-workshop series program where you could learn the basics to growing food: composting, seed saving, pruning, pest management. And we had some dining staff who came in and participated and really loved the program. We had Chef Julia, we had nutritionists, as well as a lot of students. So it was a really great time, and hopefully we can try and find a way to adapt this in a virtual way to staff for this upcoming year. The Volunteer Day event that we did last spring was also a great deal of fun, and we had a bunch of staff come up, and we donated over 60 pounds to the CPO food closet. And then going back to the Learn at Lunch that we did for the past 2 years, I even see Joy down there. That was, I think, when I first met Joy. And we were building community just through the simple act of growing food. That's what it's all about. Another big part of Semel HCI this year is our health equity series. And so the Eat Well Pod is hosting their health equity seminar this quarter. And so if you're a big fan of any of these people right here, I'm a fan of all of them already. I highly recommend you tune in. I can share more information on that after I'm done screen sharing. But Evan Kleiman, you might know from the host of Good Food on KCRW. We have some of our professors in the Public Health and Urban Planning Department, May Wang and Getz Wolf. Karen Washington, I don't know personally, but I'm real excited as I'm a big grower of food. And so learning about her activism and what her growing experience is like will be fantastic. And then Roy Choi is kind of one of the celebrity guests here. He is a huge name in the food world and a big icon in the LA food scene with his Kogi truck and a lot of the other work that he does with his show on Netflix. So stay tuned. Join us this Friday at 11. We'd love to have you there. Going into the built environment pod, what does it mean to have a built environment that promotes health? And so we have a triple duo here, which is Renee Fortier, the executive director of UCLA Events and Transportation. She's been with us for a long time, as well as Dick Jackson, Dr. Jackson, who's actually, I believe, phasing out right now, but he is an MD, MPH with a lot of other initials, who is just incredible. He's held a lot of high titles across the country in terms of public health, even working with the CDC and the state of California. Had his own TV show on PBS, and it brings a lot of great ideas to the table. And we have Dr. Kirsten Schwartz, who's new faculty to UCLA, but brings a lot of these interesting social ecology concepts to the pod. And so thinking about how this built environment can affect and change the way our health and how it relates to each other and the planet is kind of the crux here of this pod. Some of the things that they've worked on in the past have been increasing hydration stations on campus. And so this actually came in real handy this year because water fountains aren't really being used because it's not quite safe. And so hydration stations are a safe alternative. The water is chilled, and so it's more palatable for people. And so we did a little signage competition that was shared with staff assembly, and we had over 1,000 people vote on the different logos. And so you're looking at one of the winning. Actually, this was actually the pilot logo of the hydration station contest that we did. Take the stairwell campaign. So once again, thinking about signage, and so what you'll see here in the middle is basically some signage they put on these elevators to encourage people to use the elevator when possible and if accessible. And so they even at that top picture, you can see they built a bit of a art installation in the stairwell to make it more encouraging for people to kind of want to come in. And this actually has been shared across the UC and is funded by UC Health and system-wide HR because it's a really great replicable thing that can be done to promote health and well-being. And so going back to this idea of choice architecture, so healthy vending was some research that we did, and how our co-pod lead, Pete Angelis, got involved, was basically showing that where you put these choices in a vending machine will actually determine how likely someone will be to choose it. And so that might be at eye level, what the average eye level might be for someone. But we also had these little stickers that said that what choices might be a little bit healthier that encourage people to pick that. This is a really cool one. I'm gonna take a sip of water right here while you enjoy these beautiful pictures. And so what we have here is a contest that we did last year. This is an art installation contest. And so traffic boxes are very prevalent around the campus. They're not always the prettiest thing. And so we did something that basically was an opportunity to build community around an artistic manner. And so we did submissions, I would call for submissions to design artwork for these art boxes or these traffic boxes. So when you do go back to campus, keep an eye out. You'll see these scattered all across the campus, and it really brings a lot of life. And so events and transportation, their team had one of the winning slots and did a really cool video game concept there on the left. But wanted to give a little nod to one of the students who made a nice, simple, but really unique design with the broom bear. One of the bigger focuses this year is how the built environment and space activation can create social cohesion, social justice, and social equity. And so you might be aware of how simply naming the built environment can either create harmony or conflict. And so Jan Steps was recently renamed this year, I believe, to the Tongva Steps. And so naming is a way that we can promote social healing of it through the built environment. And so the Built Environment Pod this year is going to be doing focus groups. And so you can tune in and join those to learn the different approaches to how we're going to be activating space on campus, and the ideas that you have for creating a more harmonious built environment that embraces the health of everyone. Some of these examples of how they might do that, you can see here, it can be more temporary, but also something that is more long-term. And so everything ranging from, like a marathon or a 5K. Keep an eye out for the virtual 5K if you haven't already with staff assembly. That's something that we're doing to kind of promote healthy habits during the holidays. And then also here on some of the other side of things, like temporary pavilions and cafe seating. That's a big one where they want to promote dialogue this year, is with a new cafe somewhere on campus. This one is really cool. This was a sample of some slides that we had from our last BEWell pod meeting. And so this is a map of all the different employees all across the campus. And this is courtesy of David Kowarski, who is the director of mobility planning and track systems. Gave a great presentation on how COVID is impacting our commutes on campus. And just checking the chat here. Thank you, Joy. So with COVID, obviously there's a whole host of challenging problems, but it also offers this insight into how it's affected our commuting patterns, whether there are benefits to this or not. And so as you can see on the left, this breaks down the different way people commute to work on campus. So you have solo drivers, green transportation, people who are telecommuting. So we did have people who were doing this before, but you can see it drastically changes over to a more substantial amount of staff, administrative staff specifically. And so with that comes savings in emissions, greenhouse gas emissions. So this is a huge way where the planet is actually benefiting from this virus, although that's just one side of it. If you think about the health system side, there is a tremendous amount of waste being generated from masks, gloves, a lot of sanitation equipment. So it's really difficult to kind of understand the different facets of how things are helping and how things are hurting. Our EngageWell pod, this is kind of building off the idea of our social health, but we also kind of merged one of our pods. It was the BEWell pod in with the EngageWell pod. And so Eric McMahon, the director of UCLA Recreation, joined Dr. Chris Dunkelstetter and Dr. Ted Robles, who are professors of psychology. And the research that shows how a poor social health, having poor relationships with people can be as bad as smoking cigarettes. Really unique way to look about how important our social health is. And so one of the things that you may have seen scattered across campus were these pianos, assortment of pianos. And so Brew and Walk, we did a debut launch. A student had an idea to put pianos to build community and foster a sense of love and peace throughout the campus through music. And we did a great launch a couple years ago, and we still have the pianos this day. And so we have one in the Luskin Conference Center. We had one at the Covell Commons, and then we have one at Broom Plate outside the dining hall. And then this last one that we had at Broom Walk was actually placed in front of John Wooden Center, which isn't out right now because it's not very sanitary to be having groups of people touching piano keys and joining and singing, but we're soon going to hopefully bring those back and get the music back rolling in throughout the hills of Westwood. And so
for
a big
people who still don't think that
part of what the EngageWell pod is doing right now is a workshop around micro interventions and to kind of bring awareness to microaggressions. And so I want to play a little video so I can y'all can hear someone talk other than me. And this kind of gives a foundation to some of the work that the EngageWell pod is going to be working on this year. So I'm going to give this a quick play. Oops. Hopefully y'all can hear this.
for people who still don't think that microaggressions are a problem,
Oh, you're so well spoken.
just imagine instead of being a stupid comment, a microaggression is a mosquito bite.
Ugh, it's a compliment.
Mosquito bites and their itch are one of nature's most annoying features. But if you're only bitten every once in a while,
No, where are you really from?
Cleveland?
sure, it's annoying, but it's not that big a deal. The problem is that some people get bitten by mosquitoes a lot more than other people. I mean, a lot more. Whether it's on a date,
Oh, your English is so good.
Excuse me?
going grocery shopping,
You know, everything happens for a reason.
I'm just buying apples.
commuting to work,
So when are you gonna have a baby?
watching TV,
We have to keep the Redskins' name. It's part of our culture and history.
or just walking down the street with your
So I'll stop it there. It gives you a little bit of a taste of how what we say is so crucially important to the relationships we have with other people. And And you might even be aware of how you verbalize something that isn't meant to come off as a something that might hurt someone's feelings, but it's a significant problem, and a lot of people experience it more than others. And so this is a way where we can build awareness to that, and also give a little bit of a training on how you can be aware of that and how to change the behavior. The UC Diabetes Prevention Program is also something that I wanted to share here. So this is offered to all staff, and has even adapted in a virtual platform. So I highly recommend you look into this. UCLA's FitWell has been the main house for this program, but has been collaborating with Semel HCI, UC Health, System-wide HR, and UCOP to provide a CDC-approved curriculum. We're the first, maybe only university to offer CDC-approved diabetes prevention program curriculum to help people understand food and diet, nutrition, exercise, the importance there. But the reason why it's under EngageWell pod is they did a little bit of research on the social cohesion aspect of this opportunity. And what really tremendously benefited staff the most was the opportunity to work with their peers on some personal development that turned into kind of like a collective development. And it really was one of the assets, one of the greatest feedback they had was being able to work with their colleagues through the diabetes prevention program. And so tying it all together is kind of this idea of living well, and that's Semel HCI's nickname. It's LiveWell isn't necessarily a pod, it's really just the collection of all of our pod work. And so a couple of opportunities I just wanted to share here was our LiveWell podcast. And so it's a really great way to get some information when you're commuting, or maybe doing the dishes, or something around the house, since we're not spending so much time in the car. And so a lot of great podcasts have come out recently, specifically through our special series called 6 Feet Apart that talks about the COVID pandemic. And so we've featured different staff like Aisha Dixon, who works with the emeriti and retiree community, and talking about health of older adults, going back to the green commuting opportunities that are provided through something like the COVID pandemic, with Renee Fortier and a host of other great staff and faculty and community members. We also work with Staff Assembly on supporting scholarships. And so just to tout this one more time, any amount, even $1, can make a big difference. And so our ongoing campaign we have, it's a great opportunity to invest in yourself. And so a portion of funds go to health-specific scholarships that has been worked on with HCI and Staff Assembly over the years. And then also this is another opportunity for funding, which isn't as widely known, but Semel HCI is offering a small grants program. They have always offered this, but they've really invested in this year to directly address a lot of the health equity challenges. And so this is due on an ongoing basis. There is no specific deadline, but you can find out more about this grant on our website. And basically, if you work on a project that is directed towards health equity and working to reduce the challenges and stigmatizations of people on campus, and to promote a more harmonious collective, campus collective, we will fund projects ranging from $250 to $15,000. And so it's meant to be catalytic funding. And so these projects are meant to be sustainable and replicable. And so you can look more about the application online or send me an email, of course. And so at the end of the year, we do a celebration that highlights some of this research, these funded opportunities, our pod work. And so these are a couple events we've had in the past. We've had it in Sunset Rec, highlighting our garden. We've had it in Poly Pavilion, and had the gymnastics team come. Excuse me, we've had it virtually last year. And it's a real fun time. We have an activities fair, games and raffles. Entertainment is the real great point here, where you can see the talent of the staff and student community here we have on campus. And then we award people and we highlight them for their tremendous work to the health and well-being of the community. In the past, we've also had celebrity guests from Aloe Black, Quincy Jones, Maria Shriver, and last year we had UC President Napolitano. And so we will have one of those at the end of the year, once again. And so these are the different dates of our upcoming pod meetings, where you can join in and kind of start in the community building with Semel HCI and other colleagues across campus. And we have these about once a month. And so our winter quarter pods will be announced pretty soon. And if you have any questions, I'm here to answer any questions. But you can also shoot me an email, join our newsletter, which you can find on our website, healthy.ucla.edu. Tune into our podcast and follow us on social media. And so I'm going to stop it right there. And I'm going to